How's it? I'm Honan. This is the Kpop Podcast, episode 2. And over to my left, you want to give yourself the introduction over there?
Hello, it's me again, and I'm Oliver, the K-pop encyclopedia.
Yeah, perfect. So, we just kind of jump right into the topics here. For anyone who missed episode 1, in general, we're just kind of doing a podcast covering a lot of subjects we find interesting from kind of a metalhead point of view, mine, and then kind of someone who really has a deep knowledge of K-pop, Oliver, over there. On my left today, not on the top right when I say top left. All right, so first subject that we were going to jump into is survival shows.
Yeah.
You want to kick it off a little bit?
So I mean, this is something that we've had more of a hands-on experience with over the past couple of weeks, right? Because we've been watching Girls Planet 999 together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with other people. It's not just us. And so you've kind of been getting to see how it happens when it happens, rather than like watching something that's older, which is not quite the same, right? When the ranking is already decided and you know what the final lineup is and everything, it's a bit different. But when you actually are watching it from the start and you're starting to get invested in it, I guess you now have a connection to different contestants that you actually are wanting them to succeed, and then you realize, well, this is why these shows are popular.
Yeah, because right? I've had people ask me to watch 16 all the time, and I'm like, I know who Twice is, and right. Like the final, so it wouldn't have like the anticipation of it, because like I know the whole outcome of it. It's very different with IOI as well. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but I think it's what's interesting about this is how much more of a thing they are internationally now. Mm-hmm. Because Produce 101 was massive in Korea and Japan back in 2016, but it didn't have the huge international reach that Girls Planet does, and that's partially because of the advent of things like the Universe app that anyone can use. Right, anyone can get on that and vote. It's much more simple than it was back in those days for international fans to vote, and also just the popularity of social media and stuff makes it much more accessible. But it is very interesting to see when you know that the outcome is going to be a group that exists for 2.5 years and then they're done. Like, how much does someone want to really support that when they know that it's a very finite thing?
Yeah, it's with Girls Planet specifically, just because we're watching it right now. It's interesting, like how from episode 1. I never even saw Urina perform or anything. You just pick one. You're like, all right, that's the one I'm going with, or whatever, from just like a random introduction performance thing. And then I just happened to pick the one that is like, number 1, number 2 throughout most of the show. Not bragging or anything about it.
Yeah, you've done fine with that. You've got very little to worry about, I think. I don't think there's any doubt that Urina will make it into the final 9.
Yeah, that was the whole show.
I only really started to pick people just before the elimination, not the most recent one, but the one before. And then like the couple of people that I liked were eliminated in that episode. So I was just like, well.
That's unfortunate. I couldn't I was fortunately picking the ones who seemed like they were going to make it in the group. You gotta give yourself that comfort blanket, when you're watching it.
I can never. But I guess I'll support Bora. But then that's another question, right? So this is it's kind of unique. It's not that unique. It's happened in everyone before, but not quite to this extent. That there's a lot of members from existing groups in there, right? It's not all trainees, both K-pop groups and groups in China and Japan. So the thought of like for Bora, for example, who's now the last remaining member of Cherry Bullet who's still in the show, It's like, do I want her to debut in the final Girls Planet group and then not be around as much for Cherry Bullet, or do I want her to almost make it and then go back to Cherry Bullet and hopefully bring with her some of the following that she will have gained, along with the following that May and G1 gained? Because there was always that idea with Produce 101 that there would be some following of the same level that IOI had that would go to the groups that the members went to. But that didn't really happen. I mean, you can look at the different groups we have. I mean, let's just go through them and see what happened, right? So like Dia or Daya, who were the group that had debuted already before Produce. Cheon is popular within it, but they've never had much success. They've always kind of middled. They haven't had a comeback now for almost 500 days, I think. They're like 3 days ahead of nature. That's the reason I know that. So yeah, and it just doesn't seem like there's much time left for them. It seems like they're just waiting on their contracts to expire, right? Gugudan are already gone, so they're done, right? Sejong has her solo career as a singer, which is doing okay, nothing amazing. And Mina has been doing more acting than singing or anything like that. But she kind of disappears for months at a time. Cosmic Girls, I was about to say Wuja Sunya, but Cosmic Girls are doing pretty well, I would say. Not like spectacularly well, but they're definitely solid, not in danger or anything like that.
I just want to make sure Cosmic Girls isn't WJSN, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I really like WJSN. So I'm
well, so they're in one of those situations where they have released music that is more palatable to me, and I think to you as well, but it's had less of an impact in Korea.
I see, I see.
Which will kind of tie into one of what we'll talk about in a bit as well. And then, of course, we have Weki Meki, who are constantly struggling, right? They constantly release great music, and it just doesn't get recognition. And everyone knows who Yoojung and Doyeon are, but it doesn't seem to matter, right? I think still their most successful album might have been their debut when there was that interest, and then it just has petered out. And now, again, they're over almost a year without a comeback. No, they're over a year without a comeback now. And then we have Somi and Chungha, who are doing very differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially Chungha. I feel like Chungha's like the main like one that everyone probably knows now, right? Like
definitely. And Somi had a very successful comeback recently as well, and she's dropping a whole album next month, I think. Maybe at the end of this month, even. Certainly soon. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of disparity, right? But by and large, more middle to lower tier than upper tier from the members of IOI, right? Even the actress Soye has not really done anything. She's been in a couple shows here and there, but nothing. No Oscars.
It's interesting how like what you're talking about, because I know Sejong, is that how you say her name? Mm-hmm. I feel like out of all the ones I knew the best first, the only reason I knew her because we had like all of you in the Discord kind of pumping her content to me, whereas I don't know that I would have ever naturally found her without you guys having like prior knowledge, whereas Chungha and Somi I would have been able to find naturally on my own or something, from the popularity gap kind of between them.
Right.
Like they're the two that have that big popularity gap where I could find them naturally on my own. The other ones I feel like has to be from someone kind of with that IOI knowledge feeding it to you.
Yeah, like you probably wouldn't have gotten the requests. Like people from who've gotten into K-pop within the last year or two would be quite happy to come in and request the new Somi song or the new Chungha song or something like that, right? Because it's a big deal. But it's unlikely that people are going to get into Sejong's music from not having known her in IOI or in Gugudan, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe some will, but it's going to be a small minority, right? But then you have to think that 2 years later with Produce 48, the difference is pretty stark in how far the subsequent groups and related groups have been, right? It's we've just had 2 solos from IZ*ONE members in Eunbi and Yuri, and they both have sold, I think Yuri has sold 80,000, Eunbi has sold 60,000. Like for contrast, I think Weki Meki sold 35,000 a day.
That's I mean, that's awesome though. Like I'm really glad because I thought both those solos were really dope. Like
they were. I absolutely.
That they were like bops. The bass in both of them. As I've said it many times. There's like a Grand Funk Master bass player in Korea, just traveling around laying down the dopest funk bass lines on all the like new K-pop releases. I don't know what it is. They've mastered the bass formula in K-pop. There's something to it. But yeah, Eunbi's musically, especially really, because I didn't know her well from Eyes One. Eyes One to me was like Sakura, like that's who I knew from like things I had seen, and then that like actually made me kind of pay attention to who she was, because her solo release was really, really good. So I was like, oh wow, I'd kind of been missing out on some of the other members of Eyes One. I hadn't been paying attention. You know,
it tracks that you like Yurina since you like Sakura. I think you can definitely draw some parallels for the two of them.
Yeah.
But what I've also noticed about 48 is that lots of the groups that have come from that, so with members that didn't make the final lineup, but were just in the show, there's interest in them as well. So Lightsum, for example, had a couple members from Produce 48. There's a group debuting shortly called Bugaboo, who have gotten a lot of attention because they have some notable contestants from 48 as well. And I think even it's even extended from internationally and from Korea overseas as well. I think there's more interest in AKB 48 and their sister groups from the members of Produce that were there and the members of Eyes One that were there as well. Like, I know a lot of people really loved the AKB48's recent single Rumor because Hitomi from Eyes One is in it. Right?
That's genius for
watching
them
it and being
marketing.
Like, yeah. And like with sales and stuff, obviously I have to say there's the caveat of that sales have massively increased over the past 5 years in general, right? Yeah. There has just been a huge volume. Like, you see now groups are selling 500,000 like it's nothing.
I know,
right?
And I remember when we first checked out K-pop and it wasn't nearly as like accessible to people as it is now. Because that's a whole nother topic that we could go crazy on to. But when you were talking about earlier with Bora from Cherry Bullet, if she leaves and like if she doesn't make it into the group on Girls Planet and goes back to Cherry Bullet, like if she brought back an immense popularity to it because of Girls Planet, I mean, that would be really interesting to see if that happened. But she's one of those contestants too. Like, I feel like she's vocally like the strongest to me in the show right now or something, you know, where it's like I want her to make it in because I feel like, oh man, she deserves it with like the crazy vocal talent and everything else like that. But it would also be, it's kind of like a science experiment. You kind of just want to see too. It's like, does that popularity translate back to her own group?
It's also interesting just how far the hype storm has kind of gone with Girls Planet, especially among international fans, because I feel like when it was announced, everyone was like, oh, another Mnet show, they're going to rig this as well. You know, we have the history of all the voting manipulation and everything, which is a very justified criticism, right? It should be said that it's supposed to be different because they now have an independent government-appointed body that checks how the voting and stuff is done and verifies it and whatnot. So Mnet's way of rigging, as it were, is essentially showing us who they want to be in the group and not showing us on camera who they don't want to be in the group. But obviously, with 99 contestants, there are going to be people who are cut out. But it's interesting how it doesn't seem to affect it at all. There hasn't been like a boycott or anything like that. People are very much in. They're voting. They're giving him their money.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting more popular show by show, as it's happening. And
you have to feel like there's going to be more of them in the future.
Oh, definitely. I don't think they're going to stop it because it's worked. Eyes One worked. IOI worked, I would say. Like, definitely as far as what they wanted it to be. In 16 definitely worked. Twice was definitely has been successful without a doubt. So why would they stop doing it? You know, it's like, oh, we have perfect success so far, even with scandals happening. It's not like they can say the groups weren't a success.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm definitely interested to see how well this group does. Because you say like, oh, wait, we're huge. They were alive for 10 months and they were absolutely massive, right? They were on a level with the massive girl groups at the time, like the Twices, the G Friends, Red Velvets. They were on that level, but they were here and there and gone, right?
Yeah.
Whereas giving 2.5 years to IZ*ONE and presumably 2.5 years to whatever this group is going to be called. I hope it's not called Giggle. Please, can it not be called Giggle? Asteria is another rumor, which sounds okay,
some of the names, man. It's always amazing sometimes.
But yeah, IZ*ONE were breaking records with how well they were selling. So I'm fascinated to see if that's a trend that continues, if it gets even more.
Yeah, now that I know about how successful, like, because IOI I think had happened like once we started checking out K-pop on our channel. I think that had like come and gone kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But I do, when you see the amount of views and stuff, you realize how popular they were. And IZ*ONE was happening while we were doing the channel, but I don't know that we ever really fully grasped it. But I am interested to see if, like you're saying, if Girls Planet can continue that trend and if they'll just shoot it even higher and skyrocket the popularity.
Yeah. It certainly will depend, I think, on who makes the lineup. Probably more so than it has before, conceivably. Because I feel like the Korean public has expressed some concerns that there won't be any Koreans in the final lineup because of the popularity of a lot of the Japanese and Chinese members, which is, I feel like, an unwarranted concern.
Yeah, I definitely think they're doing 3 and 3 from each country. If I had to predict, like, I feel like that's definitely what they're gonna do. It makes the most sense.
They did say they weren't gonna do that, but
it's like knows? We're not gonna do that. It happened. We said it just happened when you guys voted. It happened.
But there's also a lot more that people know about the contestants, right? So there's the scandals of certain. We won't go too much into this, but there's scandals of certain contestants, particularly some of the Chinese contestants, that had caused a lot of people to say, oh, if so and so debuts, I'm not supporting the group.
Yeah, before we could jump off this topic, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the way Mnet, when I first started watching the show, made like Yaning have like the thing. Is it Yujin? Why am I blanking on her? Yujin, right? From CLC. Good. I sometimes mess up her name and I always feel bad about it. So they made like that kind of scandal thing between them, like, which I'm granted. She said something that made it easy for Mnet to chop that into like, oh, here we go, perfect kind of thing. But I found myself, from the way they kind of wanted them to have that beef throughout the show and stuff, like it never happened again, really. But I found myself ended up being a fan of, by the way, a lot of hate I'm probably gonna get for this. I'm a Yanning fan right now on that show, all right? I'm rooting for it. I don't know, like, I know they started it off with kind of that whole beef thing, but I found myself compelled to, like, throughout the rest of the show, she redeemed, like, that initial moment.
Which was probably the intention in the first place, right? Yeah. It was, people have said, well, they were sent those songs beforehand, right? And I can imagine that Mnet said, okay, let's give the more, like, outspoken and, like, bold contestant the CLC song, and maybe they even just straight up scripted, hey, can you say this when you're on stage? I wouldn't put it past them at all.
Some guy just has a little flashcard.
Like, yeah. And then obviously the way that the reactions and stuff were edited was designed to make it look more dramatic than it was, and then it sets up the perfect redemption arc narrative. And then it loves a good redemption arc narrative.
It definitely felt like they were giving her like a bunch of moments to redeem that initial moment throughout the whole show. Like it makes sense, they have to have a storyline going on. It has to be some type of content there that is compelling to you as you're watching it.
Yeah, of course that's not where the controversies stop, but I think that's probably a topic for another time.
I'm sure there's like I always find out about new controversies, and I always try to just like watch the show without thinking about it and judge just off of what I see in the show versus, because I'm sure you could delve into all kinds of, who knows, there's always some type of past I'm sure that you could find about someone on any of those shows. Well, that is I think that's good for that topic. We covered kind of a lot on that, actually. And then I know the next one we have up is a really interesting one, because me and Goran, for anyone who's watched a lot of our React videos, you guys know cute concepts is what I have here as the next topic. Like, what are they? Who are they for? How do you feel about them? There's so many questions you can cover in cute concepts, but for anyone who's watched our channel, I mean, me and Gordon haven't always been fans of them. I don't know that Gordon's ever grown onto a cute concept. I, however, have learned to embrace it sometimes, to embrace the cute. But I guess we'll start with, what is a cute concept? What do you consider a cute concept in K-pop?
Yeah, or even before that, just what is a concept in general?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is something that is perhaps more unique to K-pop, that obviously, Western groups have style, right? They have certain styles which might change from album to album and whatnot. And they certainly have themes. Like, you have like a thematic album, a concept album, right? But it's never done in the same way that it is in K-pop. It never goes this much. There's never this much detail paid to it, right? So a concept is essentially just what I said. It's the style, the theme, which doesn't in any way have to be related to music, but usually it would be weird for some concepts to not be tied to the music in some ways. But like, there is perhaps a really good example of the recent unbelievable sleeper mega hit of Brave Girls is Rollin', right? Where if you watch the music video for that, it's all about like vampires, and it's dark. It's a dark concept, but the song itself is unbelievably. It's just like a happy, upbeat summer song, right? And it's like happy. it has no connection to the theme whatsoever. So that's like, perhaps an aberration. But yeah, so one pop concept in K-pop that's been popular since forever has been the cute concept, right? I mean, I'm sure even when you first saw Girls' Generation songs, you would have seen G, for example, which is the epitome of a cute concept, right?
That's a weird one, because I know that's a cute concept, but that's like, there's something about that song that's so good and catchy. Like, even me, who's not huge on cute concepts, that's just a bop of a song. Like, that is just like, that's a banger. Like, you throw G on and I'm gonna get excited. Like,
you're gonna be giving it all that.
It's just so good. You can't not like it. I don't know what it is. It's like,
but that's ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, where the line should be drawn, right? If the song is good, it doesn't matter what the concept is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so the cute concepts tend to be the girlier, more, I was gonna say more youthful, because that's a big thing that they like to try and establish in Korea, especially. It's about being girly, about being young, and innocent as well. But all of those can kind of be their own. You have an innocent concept, which is different from a girly concept.
yeah.
But look, it doesn't matter too much. But it said a lot that, like, a lot of people might think of K-pop when they don't know what it is, and their impression is a video or a song or a dance that looks like G, right? That might be the kind of thing that comes to their mind, or perhaps like Twice's Cheer Up or Likey or something like that, right? But of course, there's so much more to it than just those ones. But
with Twice, I used to always think of them just that way at first, because that's what it was. Like, all the songs that were available to check out at first for Twice were all very cutesy to me. Cheer Up is a little different, because it is cute, but it has a bit of like power behind it. That chorus hits in a cute style, but I guess the way their voices are projected, like Geo, it doesn't feel as cutesy, I guess you would say.
But then you're still thinking about the music, right? It's just, if you think of it purely in terms of its aesthetic, it's what is presented to you. It's a bunch of girls in cheerleader outfits or whatever,
the video, right? For sure.
When that's what they're trying to to put across, right? It's like, I mean, same with G-Friend, for example. Like you could listen to a song like Navallera, which is like a super upbeat, cute kind of song, and then there's like a guitar solo at the end of it, and it's like I wouldn't say that guitar solo in isolation is cute, right? So yeah, there has to be a separation between the music and the concept to some degree. But it's interesting how much people are put off by the thought that K-pop is cute in general. Oh, I won't like this. I don't like cutesy stuff. And it's like, who says that and why? And the answer is usually men around our age.
Yeah.
Typically.
It's interesting that, because you can't generalize, like you're saying, you can't generalize a genre with a concept. Like someone being like, oh, I don't like K-pop because, oh, it's so damn cute all the time or something or whatever. That would be like someone being like, oh, I don't like metal. I don't like the screaming. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you just grabbed a subgenre of a large umbrella of genres, focused on one aspect of it. You can't call like Big Bang cute or something, and put them.
I mean, have you seen Lollipop? That's pretty cute.
No, I don't think I actually have seen that one. But like, you know what I mean, though. You can't like put them in the same umbrella as a really cute concept that you watched from another group.
Yeah, and there's obviously, I mean, that's probably a subtopic of this one is how far cute concepts are done by boys compared to girls.
Astro.
So Astro are a great example, right? There's very few, like when you see a boy group song that's cute, especially now, it's an outlier, right? Mm-hmm. There's very much a typical fourth gen boy group sound, which a lot of groups are doing and doing well. But so if you think of something like NCT Dream's Chewing Gum, for example, when they were all like 15 and they're just there like chewing gum, and it's just like, oh, I remember seeing an advert for that and just being like, oh my god. But it was odd. It was odd to see that from a boy group, whereas if it was a girl group, I wouldn't have blinked twice at it. Right?
That is interesting, because I felt the exact same way when I was shown on lives, kind of the cuter side of NCT like that, because before that I only knew like Kick It style, like
right.
Really powerful kind of like, and once you see something like that from a strong boy, Vix is, I think, the perfect example. What we just on the live last time, I would never in a million years have believed they could have had a concept like that.
There's quite a few groups that debuted with cute concepts and didn't go anywhere with it, and then they changed style. So Dreamcatcher obviously is a classic one. Vix is another one. Stella as well. They all went different routes. So Dreamcatcher and Vix went for a more horror route, whereas Stella went for explicitly sexy. But like, but all of that was from a cute concept origin. And like Girls' Day as well, for example, they kind of flitted back and forth between doing cute songs and then very sexy songs, and realizing, well, everyone's buying the sexy ones and no one's buying the cute ones.
Yeah.
But the reason they tried the cute ones to begin with is because they saw the success of groups who were doing that and doing it so well, right? So there has to be an understanding, actually, there's a market for this, right? Who do you think the market of a cute concept is?
If you had asked me before I grew to like some cute concept songs, I would definitely have said younger, like underage. Like, I would have said maybe getting into their teens and a little younger than getting into their teens. Because at first I was like, there's just no way I could like this concept. Like, there's just nothing there for me to gravitate towards. And then there was just certain ones, like, obviously, like G I always enjoyed, but then there's Oh My Girl, to me, has done cute concept in a way where it's like, okay, this is something I actually really enjoy. Like, the song is just really good. And the video, I guess it depends how the cute concept's done in the video that can bother me. Because I can enjoy a song by itself. A video can turn me off of a concept depending on how cutesy, how innocent they're trying to do like the video and stuff, you know, like that. Oh My Girl does it in a way to me where if as an adult, where it's like, okay, yeah, like this is really cute, oh, like how adorable or something like that, but not in a creepy kind of way, you know?
I think a good way of phrasing that is that it feels natural.
Yeah, feels natural, exactly.
It doesn't feel like they're putting it on, even though they are. Right?
Yeah.
Let's not, you know, let's not go crazy, like,
yeah.
But it feels right. They do it so well and so naturally. It doesn't come off as you say, it doesn't come off as weird, and it doesn't make us feel creepy to watch it and be like, oh.
Yeah, the biggest factor is, do I feel creepy watching it as far as cute concepts goes?
And you have to imagine, you know, if they came out, if Oh My Girl came out now, say Oh My Girl's members are in their kind of mid-20s, right? If they came out and did a concept like Weekly, who have some members who are 15, 16 and do schoolgirl concepts, right? Because they're literally in school.
Yeah.
If Oh My Girl came out and did that, it'd be weird.
Definitely,
right?
Yeah.
It'd be like, guys, you're a bit past this, you know?
Yeah.
So they, doing it within the whole thing. I think the way the video is done is another thing. I don't know if you remember the video for O by Girls' Generation.
Yeah, yes, I do remember that video.
That's cut. That video is cut with so many random clips of just them being like, doing Aegyo and stuff.
Yeah, overly cute.
And you can tell that when they were filming it, they didn't have enough content in the video to like to get like a fully engaging video across, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2010 or whatever it was. It wasn't the pinnacle of budgets like it used to be. So they were like, all right, girls, everyone line up, do some cute shit into the camera, and we'll just splice this in. It'll work just like 10,
10 shots of who is it, Sunny from Girls' Generation doing
people like Sunny and Yuna. Even Hyoyeon had to do it, the poor girl. And you know that she right?
Especially her, like the rapper dancer, you know, she's like,
yeah. But they absolutely, the people loved it. They ate it up, and it was part of the reason songs like that blew up, was people fell in love with the kind of cute gestures and stuff. I guess Aegyo is the thing we could probably talk about as another topic at another time, because that's
definitely
that spans off on a whole thing on its own. But it's definitely younger people are into it. I mean, I work with children and I hear them singing, like just today, for example, a girl in one of my classes who is 6, international age, 6 or 7. She was there going, dun, 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 you know.
That song's so good though. Like, see, that is an example of one where I love that song. Like, Oh My Girl, Dun Dun Dance. Like, if it's so good, it doesn't have like an age barrier like that.
But you didn't fight with it too much at first though, because I feel like there was perhaps that moment of kind of being a bit put off by it.
Any cute concept at first, I always have like a barrier put up. The second I know it's a cute concept, there's a wall thrown down.
Yeah.
And that wall, if it's broken over, that means it's a really great song. Like, if you break through that barrier I throw up in a cute concept, Twice is the perfect example of that, because like I at first really was thrown off by Twice. Like, Cheer Up, like we were talking about earlier, that song at first was just like, that was one of the first cute concept ones we watched, and I was like, I don't know, man, this is hitting some weird like areas for me and stuff. But then it's so catchy, it's so entertaining to listen to, that you kind of, it breaks through that barrier of age gap. There's some, like when you talked about the groups, the ones that have really young underage members and it's really cutesy, I have trouble having like breaking through that wall with those ones, because it just doesn't feel like it's anything targeted for me to listen to. But Stacey has, I would say, it's underage members and it's very cutesy, but they do it, I would say they're successfully doing it in a way where I don't feel awkward listening to it. Maybe not all of their music, but like definitely their main title ones have that real catchy chorus choreography thing going on where it's like you could appreciate it.
It's that's a kind of part of the conversation as a whole is how should an idol of a certain age be presented,
Yeah.
right? And like if you have a group like Stacey or Weekly with underage members, and then you debut them in like a sexy girl crush concept, it's I feel like that is weirder than debuting them in a cute girlish concept.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if Weekly debuted with a song like, I don't know, like Pixies Addicted instead of what they debuted with, which was Tag Me, it would be like, I'd be like, oh god, this is unsettling, right? Same with Rocket Punch, for example. Rocket Punch's back name was 14 when they debuted, right? And you know, they're now a couple years in, they're still doing lights, so you know they're not throwing ass,
Yeah,
right?
which makes sense. I like that they
Right.
keep to that. You know, at least wait until they're in their 20s or something.
So my point with this is that it's not just about who it's for in terms of us, but it's who it's for in terms of them as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important aspect of it, for sure.
Yeah, that's why we felt so weird in Girls Planet when it was like ice cream team.
Right.
And then I saw who was on the ice cream team, and I was like, who's doing this? This is like the worst thing that could have happened to me watching this show. You're going to put like all the underage members on the ice cream team. And obviously, that song, you would maybe hear it and not feel that way because it is a bit of a cute style song that Blackpink came out with, I guess. But the lyrics.
The lyrics, it's definitely about cunnilingus, yes.
Yeah. It's those lyrics, bro. I don't want to see any underage girls singing those lyrics, you know. From
that ties nicely into the survival show topic as well, because I mean that was a thing back in Project 101 as well. I think I've even shown you the performance of Bang, like bang bang into the room.
Yeah,
the dance performance. They're like Somi and Yoojung and people were in, and they were like 15. And they're there like actually like twerking and like making gestures that they should not be making and stuff like that, right? And like, people went nuts, and it's like how much are people appreciating this just because it's a great performance, and how much are people actually just kind of inadvertently sexualizing teenagers?
Yeah, that's where it gets like weird area for it. But like, I don't want me and you to just sound like two dudes like, oh yeah, don't be 15-year-old girls, don't be doing that or whatever. Like, if you're 15, do whatever you like. It's once it's like a business format like this, and they're being controlled obviously by whoever's running the business, and that person's using them in a sexualized way. That's when it's worrisome. If you're that age and you're doing that stuff on your own on TikTok or something, whatever, I'm just not consuming that side of the internet. So you go be you. but when it is a K-pop group and it's put in platform in front of everybody, that's when it gets a little awkward about it.
I mean, it's definitely something that people have shared feeling uncomfortable for. I mean, someone can be a little bit unwarranted, but so to talk as I often want to about nature for a moment, their debut was very cute, right? Very bright and cute, and then they had like the two songs which were two MVs that were promoted and everything, which were also cutesy with a bit of sass in it, that like wild drop that comes in Some You'll Be Mine out of nowhere and stuff. But they had three members at that time who were 16. And I remember their first showcase, the crowd was, from the sound of it and from what shots of it they were showing, it was like almost entirely men in their 30s, 40s.
Yeah, you can tell just from the sound of the cheers.
Well, exactly. So they introduce themselves and you just say, and it's like, obviously men of any age are entitled to enjoy whatever they want, right? Like there's no boundary in that, but there is like a degree of why are there so many?
And
what are they enjoying it for?
Disparity, right, between men and girls at that performance and stuff.
Like that. There's certainly, and the issue is that companies certainly feed into that. They're aware that there is a seedier element to the fan base, and they don't want to lose any group of consumers, right? They want to appeal to everyone, and that means appealing to teenagers. as much as it does mean appealing to creepy 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But the most important thing, of course, is that the girls are doing what they want to do, that they're doing stuff that they consent to and are happy doing, and the company doesn't force them into anything. That's ultimately that's what matters.
That is the most important part of it. If they're doing what they enjoy doing and that's the concept they want to be doing, I feel like unfortunately when it is a cutesy, maybe underage girl group concept, there's always going to be that no one can control there being a seedy kind of creepy side of something like that, because the company can't control that and neither can the group, you know. That kind of stuff I feel like would happen regardless.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just regardless, there's going to be people like that would gravitate towards it. But if it's a targeted cutesy group towards like a younger audience and the song's really, really good, I have no problem with there being like a age disparity, you know, like Twice or something, like with their Twice I've heard with like literally it sounds like the military is chanting at their shows or something, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, the industry doesn't do itself any favors by debuting groups like Busters, where like when the oldest member was like 15 and there were like 13-year-olds in there and stuff like that. It's like, okay, great. But there's more stuff that the groups themselves are able to do about it, which is really cool. So for Weekly, for example, one of their of age members was saying that she doesn't let the younger members dress in clothing that's too revealing. And if the stylists are like, oh, here's your stage outfits, and it's like too much skin on show or whatever, she'll be like, no, let's change it and do something that's a bit more conservative. To remember that they're 16, that kind of thing, which is neat. Yeah. It's cool that at least some groups are now being able to have that voice about it.
I would say this goes both ways too, though. Like you're saying with boy groups, if they're underage as well, I don't feel like, you know, it shouldn't be like the Wano outfit, you know, or something.
No,
you know,
absolutely.
Like, shouldn't have like a 15-year-old member like NCT at the time, you know, like throwing out his 6-pack, you know, in the video or whatever. It goes both ways as far as like, because I don't want it to sound like we just feel this way about like girl groups with underage concept or something. It's the same with with boy groups too. It should have the maturity level of their age or something with the concept going on.
I feel like NCT Dream did that really well. That when they were all young, they were doing these cute, boyish concepts, and then as they got older, they started doing more mature stuff. Like, and then now they're of age and stuff. Now they're doing stuff that's age appropriate, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully that's the kind of pattern that everyone can follow. If you're going to debut members who are underage, let them act their age to begin with and mature appropriately. Not like, although people like ITZY, for example, are wearing the kinds of outfits that they do, and you have to remember that Yuna is still, I don't know, she's 17 now. She's still 16.
Yeah, I think last time when we were live and we were watching Loco, it was like, you know, when they have the Studio Chum performance.
Yes.
And I didn't know. I mean, I remembered before that she was underage, but I thought by now, because the rest of them are like, I think 20 or something and older like that. I was like, okay, by now, because the outfit they had her wearing, I was like, by now she's definitely probably like over 18 with the rest of the girls. But then when we were watching it, I think Blueberry was like, oh no, the stylist is under fire because she's underage. And it was kind of a very risque outfit, I guess you'd say, or something. Like, I'm trying to think of how you would describe that outfit. And it's, if she wanted to dress that way, I guess I don't personally have a problem with it. But if like a stylist is putting her out there in that, there is just, it's like,
and you have to feel for something like Studio Chum that is what's happened, right? They said, but it comes down to the concept itself. This is the concept, it's crazy or whatever, or it's cool, it's badass. And what is badass? And apparently it's like BDSM looking gear, according to K-pop stylists. And there isn't that thought of, is this appropriate to dress a 16-year-old in this?
It felt weird once I watched the video not knowing or remembering her age, and then when you are told it afterwards, there's a bit of that kind of squirm, like, oh, you know, like, So there is that weird thing when you realize, oh, okay, they've put an underage girl dressed like that out there, because I would say she was wearing the most risque outfit in that performance,
Right.
which is an interesting thing. It's like, why her, or something, out of the whole group or something. You kind of
I think probably a factor of that is because she's the most popular member in Korea.
Okay.
I'm fairly sure. I'm saying that. I'm saying that with confidence, but I'm not 100% sure. But I do believe that she is the most.
I could
popular.
see that. Yeah.
I know that people like Ryujin and Yeji are more popular internationally, but I think in Korea,
girl. Young.
yeah. But I think Yuna's definitely, because she very much appeals to what Koreans think is a beautiful person, right? And yeah, but they're the ones who also are like, hang on, we don't need to be seeing all this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it makes sense. I guess to finish up on that, I would just say, if she wanted to wear that outfit and she was comfortable with it, I don't personally sexualize anything like that, so I don't have a problem with it or whatever. But if she had
if the FBI is listening,
but if her stylist is like doing all that decision making, that's where it's a little like kind of well, what's your decision making behind that, or kind of thing, and how much control does she have in those decisions? That's where I would be more worried about it, is how much choice and control she has in that situation, is with the outfits and everything like that.
Yeah. So one final question on this topic. What is your favorite cute concept song? If you can think of a boy group one and a girl group one, great. But if it's just one, then...
Girl group? I really love Oh My Girl. Like Dun Dun Dance, like we were talking about earlier, is so good. Like I love that song. But I gotta go with G from Girls' Generation, because that's the GOAT, if you ask me, of like cute concept. That's like the best that you can get out of that.
That is pretty classic. Yeah. I think, well, there's just two that came to mind for me when I was Oh My Girl's Liar Liar. I absolutely adore that song. And it's everything about that it's just like the perfectly executed cute concept with a cool storyline that's funny and quirky and everything a cute concept should be, right? For boys, I was going to go with Shiny's Replay, the debut. Just no yeah for me too. That's just like, it's such a classic thing of just like a bunch of at that time young boys and their unrequited love, or even just, that's what it kind of looks like, even if the lyrics are even more tender and tame than that, and it's just about calling an older lady
that
pretty.
came like flooding back to me, because now when I think about Shiny, I think a lot about like the solo stuff with like Taemin, like Advice,
right?
Or and like and Key's like synthwave album and stuff,
and that's the Taemin who was 14 when he debuted, right?
Yeah.
And how he's grown into himself now.
Yeah, now he's so sick. Like Taemin to me is like, I could literally make a Taemin topic sometime for this. So I think that was a good kind of summarization of cute. People, you could always let us know in the comments of the video if there was more that you wanted us to branch on when you hear us talking about some of these topics. Always feel free to be like, hey, but what about this? How do you like, or something, don't feel free to comment that kind of stuff when you feel like we didn't fully talk about something that you were interested in that topic.
And like, if we said something dumb, like call us out on it. You know?
Yeah. Like, if you feel like we said something stupid, me and Oliver are open-minded people, we don't.
Yeah. Like, we're very aware of like who we are as like straight white guys, right? Like in our late 20s. It's we know what we are as and we know that there is a lot that we won't necessarily consider because it's not our own personal experience and whatnot. So people, please, respectfully, of course.
Yeah, but without just telling us that like you want us to die or burn in a dumpster fire and stuff. Respectfully, feel free to disagree with things that we talked about.
Yeah.
Well, that's That's good on cute. But I know that we so we have to bring back a topic that we really didn't go fully into, which is the like most accessible K-pop group, K-pop music, but also branching that into accessible to who, like what music that person likes, Western market, Asian market, so there's a lot of variables in here that we can cover. I know in the first episode this was the first topic, but fortunately I moved things along too quickly. I had like a timer thing trying to keep conversations not super long, but I'm not even worried about that this episode. We'll try to fully grasp and cover this topic. So I guess at first, where should we start with most accessible?
So so we talked about BTS before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the AMAs. I was wrong.
Okay.
See, I'll correct my mistake. But I guess we had to then talk about who's the most popular female artist as well, right? Who's the most accessible female artist for new fans?
Blackpink,
right?
I think it has to be just
And probably a year or two ago, it would have been even more of a sure thing, right? That's funny because Blackpink did a song called "Sure Thing," but because I feel like if you talked about the other massive groups at the time, if you talked about Twice, then you'd say Twice aren't as accessible to foreign markets because they're too cute.
Yeah.
Right. Now, that's not an issue. I don't think. I think people can look at I Can't Stop Me and be like, okay, right, and cry for me. Even the Japanese stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely their most recent stuff is something that it's like, okay, I would show this to someone to get them into K-pop.
Yeah. Which I think is a sign of how good K-pop is, right? I think there's definitely, you can look at all these different groups and artists and you can recommend stuff targeted to certain people, right? So I guess that's going to be the main point of this discussion is, I'm now thinking of other stuff to say about cute, but I'll have to leave it. Is how certain fans or certain people again can find certain things more accessible than others, right? So when you and Goran started up a Metalheads React thing, I'm guessing you picked Did It Do because it was just a massively trending song at that moment.
It was right? Like, yeah, if I opened up YouTube, that was like in your face,
right?
Like trending,
and it helped that I feel like something that a lot of metalheads appreciate in non-metal, that it has like a hard edge to it. It has like speed to it. Metalheads like it when stuff is fast.
hard hitting synth. Blackpink definitely for a metalhead, if we're being specific to that, is where I would start with anyone who likes metal. Because, like you're just saying, upbeat, hard 808 synth and everything hitting together. But the rap is done in a harsher style, the kickback, like kind of thing. It's hitting harder than a lot of K-pop would, in my mind.
Yeah, and I feel like then from that, although just by saturation of fans, you're going to get a lot of people saying react to BTS, react to Blackpink. Probably people seeing Metalhead, the most requested act is probably going to be Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Right? Because people go, oh, this is metal. This Dreamcatcher's metal adjacent, I suppose.
Actually, you know what? You totally
let's get that in.
Dreamcatcher now, because we didn't know Dreamcatcher, obviously, when we first started. Now, if I'm showing a metal head, Dreamcatcher, absolutely, you would be the first one with the knowledge of K-pop that I would show to a metalhead.
And you have to imagine for YouTubers who might do the same style of video, but from a different angle, they say, and a hip hop head reacts to, people are going to come in saying Blackpink, BTS, but perhaps they recommend different songs. Perhaps they recommend like BTS's rap line songs, for example, like the ciphers and stuff like that. Perhaps Blackpink fans will be a little bit more cautious. I'm giving the type of like spam commenters a bit too much credit here, but perhaps they won't go in and say react to Ice Cream. They'll say check out How You Like That instead, right?
Yeah, I feel like with the fandoms, they always go for the most recent because they obviously want their group's most recent thing to do well. Yeah. Rather than what would be the best to target someone specifically.
Yeah, but then you can also think of the kind of things that appeal to people from more niche kind of backgrounds. So, for example, I have a friend who's a great musician in his own right, and he plays he plays piano and guitar and everything, and he sings and he does kind of one man shows, and he is a lounge pianist and stuff. And his girlfriend of a few years is a big K-pop fan, and one of his best friends, me, is also a big K-pop fan. So both of us have also been like, "Hey, you should." But it's like, well, so if we show him something like BTS or Blackpink, he doesn't like it. It doesn't appeal to him. I remember showing him "I Got a Boy" just to like fuck with his head. And he was just like, oh, it's like a sensory overload. I just can't. He can't do music videos at all. He can't look at them.
The music video for that one especially.
But then I was like, okay, how about Piano Man by Mamamoo? Right. Let's try get this in instead. And then it's like, what about I Feel You by Wonder Girls? The like 80s guitar and everything. Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, I love this. Where's this been? I don't care about this other stuff, but give me this. And that's how it works, right? It's like there's always something you can find that appeals to pretty much anyone. I think probably only like harsh noise aficionados are the people who you might struggle to find a K-pop song that isn't at least somewhat tied into those genres.
Mamamoo is one where the talent is so vocal, the vocal talent so amazing, but then the style has like a classic feel to it, you know, where it's just something about it that's almost nostalgic in a way of another era. And to me, that's one, like, universally, if you didn't know someone's music background, you would be like, all right, well, check out Mamamoo, you know, like, that's like showing someone how talented a K-pop group can be in my mind. Like, this is the upper echelons of just gifted K-pop group. Like,
and then like for people who like weird stuff and like who want to hear something that's different, because I've heard that more and more from people saying Western music is just getting a bit boring because it's so formulaic. Right. And it's like, I want something to be, well, it's a very valid criticism, right? But it's like, I want something to be a bit more experimental. And you're like, okay, here's Red Velvet Zimzalabim or something, or here's FFX's Red Light. Like, there's so much you can show people that it makes it appealing to everyone in a way. It's just that the most people like kind of typical pop music, and therefore the most appeal is going to be the stuff that appeals to those people, right? But generally, I think K-pop is way more accessible than people perhaps give it credit for, musically, at least.
I say so. Like with BTS having such a giant catalog, Blackpink doesn't have a giant catalog, I would say, but they do have kind of that real club. There's something that's in Western music that you can easily find in Blackpink. I would say they have the closest to what is mainstream Western style on the radio. Blackpink, I would say they're definitely the closest to that. Now, I'm not sure I would have said that originally, but definitely now with some of the full English releases they had and stuff like that. But with Red Velvet, I kind of wanted to go to you on that. Who would you target with Red Velvet? Like, because that is, like, to me, that's my ultimate group. To me, they have the hands down the best catalog that I enjoy of K-pop music. But I don't know who I would show Red Velvet, like, as a, like, entry to K-pop.
I've always shown Red Velvet to people as a look how cool this is musically. I don't always lead in with this is great and you should like this is the pinnacle of the music, even though I do think Red Velvet are like top tier in terms of how good their music is. but that's never the appeal straight away. I don't think it's like, oh, that's different, that's interesting. Like you can listen to Really Bad Boy, for example, and go, this song has like an anti-chorus, right? Like it's structurally it's very interesting. And then you can show them this. You can show them people who might like the more chill vibes and stuff. They have, of course, the Velvet songs, right? You can show someone Kingdom Come or Automatic or Bad Boy. I guess is the most popular one, right?
Yeah, Bad Boy is like a perfect song.
But even just like someone like the friend I mentioned, for example, I remember showing him a song, a Red Velvet song, just like listening to it, which was Ice Cream Cake. Just because Ice Cream Cake is a pretty typically formatted K-pop song, right? It doesn't mess around too much. It's just like it has its verses and its chorus, and it has a rap bridge, and then it ends, right? But it does it all in this minor key, right? There's those really like sinister, which makes it so it would turn it from being like that saccharine, cute song into this like unsettling thing, and it's just like it is wild to get like minor shifts like that, or even like a minor dominant in a pop song.
Yeah, they're almost right? like prog K-pop or something, like progressive K-pop. It's so
yet it's so mainstream. It's like from one of the biggest companies, a big release that was hugely popular, and I think that to me is accessibility. Yeah, right? It's something can be that experimental and it's still that widely enjoyed by that many people.
SM Entertainment, out of like the big companies, this is like a totally different topic we could go into another time. Like, but to me, they go like the weirdest route sometimes over other companies. Definitely. You know, like the most experimental, I guess you would say. But because we've checked out old FX on the lives and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, this like really like. This is going all over the place. Like this is kind of, and you can see with Red Velvet, they just cranked that dial even more. They're just like, well, turn that up to 10, you know?
They certainly can do. When they would do safe songs as well, right? Like you might get a song like Oompa Oompa, which was just like a safe, enjoyable song, right? But even just just the way that they do a safe song or like a simple song as well, like the foundation of the beat of Red Flavor, for example, which is like Red Velvet's most popular song in Korea, I think. Taking that like warped vocals like clip of someone just going and making that like the basis of the beat is just like really cool production. But another one I was thinking of, an SM group, of course, and we always talk about girls just because I think we like girl groups more, but EXO. I always have to talk about EXO when possible. Like when Tempo came out, right? And they had that it was more rap focused and stuff, and had like that ridiculous bed squeak sample, which has been used a few times. But then they have that bridge which just goes full a cappella out of nowhere, and it's like, who would do that, right? Like who in Western music would ever do that?
With SM, because of those changes that they do, where it's like, oh, this is an SM song. Like when you're because of those kind of weird switch ups, it's like this is definitely SM Entertainment. Like
just you can never imagine like One Direction just having a full a cappella bridge.
No, I can't even imagine One Direction either because I've never listened to.
But like, right, it's like imagine suddenly just Zayn Malik going dum 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 dum, just like all of it. It doesn't track at all. But for that song, it works so incredibly. And I don't feel like I ever saw a single person, a single EXO fan who had been there since debut, being like, "Oh, what the hell is this? Where's my weird dubstep sounds from Wolf?" You know, like where. There's always people who are like, these songs were weird. And I remember, especially in the dubstep era, songs like Wolf and Shiny's Everybody, even Hyuna's Bubble Pop, everyone's like, can we just leave the dubstep bits alone now, please? But those songs are still loved by so many people, right?
Yeah. There's always something that at the moment is attacked, and then later they're like, oh, that was so good. You know, like a couple years down the line, oh, dude, when that was the best. But maybe at the time they were like kind of scoffing it off or something, you know.
And I love that degree of I can't really call it risk taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like NCT 127, for example, with Sticker, um, they had 2 million pre-orders, right? So it was like obviously they'd made the song before the pre-orders came in, but if they just released that straight up without any pre-ordering or anything, I do wonder what the impact would have been. How many people who were vocal about disliking the song regretted ordering it or regretted buying that album? And I think the answer is probably very, very few.
Yeah.
I don't like, and not just because maybe this is actually another section of why K-pop is so accessible, right? It's because of how collectible it is
Mm-hmm.
and how good owning the albums is. But yeah, I love that SM took the risk to make such like a genuinely abrasive sound in your ear straight away as an anticipated lead single from a major boy group. Just that getting like actually like hurts your ears for a second, but then
actually getting a
works.
Different reaction, listening to their music than that, like putting it on and being like, I know what's gonna happen, like you're saying, something happens and you really kind of go, oh, what? When you're like, you just genuine shock,
Yeah.
That's something I don't get when I listen to Western pop music that K-pop can still do, where it's like, it's on and I go, did that just happen? Kind of in my brain, like what? What? Like, that doesn't happen when I listen to like 102.7 and on the radio here or something. You put it on, it's okay, same formula, next song, same formula, just kind of
right.
K-pop, that's never happened to me, where it's just like, okay, like this is like every time,
Yeah, and that's what I love about it as well. Like I remember going to the club in the UK, for example, and not knowing any of the songs really, but just knowing exactly where the song was going. And like obviously it can be obvious, like you start hearing the and then and then and you go, okay, the drop is coming. But like
does the whole drop.
But it was like, it was just so much, it was the same dull drudgery that's just, yeah, it got very tedious. And knowing that even now, and I think literally today, or like today in your time zone, was my 10-year K-pop anniversary. It's 10 years since The Boys got released. And The Boys perhaps sums up, thank you, The Boys perhaps sums up that in a nutshell, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Boys as a song is just like, it has a kind of structure to it, but then it does stuff in a different way. It doesn't end when you think it should.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what they chose to try and market Girls' Generation to the US with. And it didn't go well at all.
That's the one that the boys, right? Yes. And it's like the course of Girls' Generation, let you feel that.
Yeah,
yeah, it has exactly. That middle like switch up, right? The dance switch up. That is a
I don't want to dance right now.
Yeah, that is a weird structured kind of song, actually, now that I'm remembering it. And and it started off, I believe the music video started with like a percussion like kind of thing before it
had this ridiculous set of like, it was in this era where SM had all these like elaborate intros that had nothing to do with the song
with
or
the
video
actual track.
So it had them just walking around in slow-mo with these rose petals falling and then and Jessica like letting a dove go like from her hands. It's like, it was
I
just
actually
ridiculous.
love that though. I love the over-the-top presentation of it.
Well, that scene was the first thing I ever saw of K-pop that I have any memory of. Just seeing that and like, what the hell is going on here? And then the boys, and that starts. I'm like, what is happening now? Like, and then
grabs
just
your attention
where it's going.
Instantly.
Yeah, it grabbed it and hasn't let go for 10 years. So
for me and you, Girls' Generation is like one of those first exposures to K-pop. Unfortunately for you, it made you dive in. For me, it just like was Girls' Generation, stopped there, and didn't grab more into the music until, Blackpink, when we started the channel, which I always had a respect for Girls' Generation. I always will, because they are like the first group I ever saw. G was always something where it's like, G was like this weird guilty pleasure thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that's the extent of it. I listened to metal, I listened to all these music genres, but then G was like the where I my one K-pop thing.
Yeah, so that it was like that for me for the first few years for sure. It was I had a couple artists that I found from Girls' Generation, like Tiara and Brown Eyed Girls and FX and so on, and they were kind of just like in the bottom of my iPod in the foreign, where it goes into the foreign language bit, and they were just down there. But like the vast majority was all the stuff that I listened to because Pitchfork or my hipster friends told me to or whatever, right? It was like, and also stuff I did found by myself every now and then, but like but yeah, it was just like a kind of little side hustle that I had going on where every now and then I'd be in the mood for just some wild, weird, like pop pleasure, and I would go to that because outside of a very few very guilty pleasures like Call Me Maybe, there wasn't much in Western pop that I was liking very much. I still like the older
just came
stuff.
Flooding in. Is that Carly Rae Jepsen or whatever?
Hell yeah, it's Carly Rae Jepsen.
Dude, I remember that coming out. That was a big deal when it came
out. It goes hard, that song. But I can't listen to it very much. It's like I can once every couple months if I'm the right amount of intoxicated. Hey, I just met you, but like but with K-pop, it's like I can actually listen to this. I can listen to the whole album, and I can listen to this again later. I can listen to this the next day. I know I've never been one to play songs on repeat, but I can listen to it a lot in a short space of time. But it was only years later that I started to really dive into a lot, and then when I realized, oh shit, there's a lot. There's like a lot of groups, which is definitely something you will have experienced as well. Like perhaps before you started doing the lives, you might have started to feel like you had a pretty good grasp on K-pop and like the big groups and what's popular
like,
and
yeah,
stuff.
when we first, I remember Dreamcatcher being like a weird thing to be exposed to, like a weird like, oh. But now, like, Dreamcatcher would not be a weird thing for me to be exposed to, you know, like, in K-pop. Now it's like, all right, what's the 5 upcoming brand new debuting girl groups next month or whatever, you know? Like, it's crazy now. It's like...
Trying to keep track of everything is like an almost a superhuman task. Yeah, and I'm still finding obscure things. Like, I mean, I've even ended up digging up obscure stuff. It's specifically to show it on one of the streams.
Yeah,
like I remember that I forget what it was called now. That was like a particularly lesbian themed music video that we watched.
Oh god, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name either, but I do remember being shown that.
I hadn't seen that before. I was just like, huh, what's this?
I mean, we've gone so wild on far, like into different places on the streams, like Girl Crush and things like that, you know, where it's just way off in different spectrums from where it all started.
Yeah, and even starting to appreciate stuff from other things as well, like some C-pop and so on, which I never really particularly thought was that much of an appeal. But I checked out a whole bunch of the stuff that the members from Girls Planet have done, and some of it I really liked.
Yeah, you had me in a live watch a couple of those. Some were really good, and like Alligator. Yeah. I'm blanking on the artist name, but you know what I'm talking about. That song Alligator.
I feel like it's probably Lay.
Alligator. No, she's a C-pop artist. Someone in YouTube will know. Someone in the comments will know what I'm talking about. But you I think showed me the video.
It's Lexi Liu.
Yeah, like some of that stuff that I would never have been exposed to, probably, like that we've gone.
That song is dope, actually. It's like ALGTR or whatever.
Yeah. The way it's spelled.
That's why I was like, okay, yeah.
But I think she does say alligator, right? Like she's like alligator. What's in that? It's actually, anyone who has not heard that song, it's really, really good. It's one of those ones where it's like, oh, like this will make me listen to other Chinese pop music.
Yeah. Which
I'm sure my drummer from China probably will be like, how many times have I tried to show you like interesting music from China?
but that's the thing as well. I guess that can be like the kind of final aspect of this topic, is how far does someone from the region market their own music from their region, right? How much do Korean people try and get people to listen to K-pop? And from my experience, the answer is not at all,
Yeah.
or like next to nothing. And I dated a Korean person for several years, and she basically had an interest in some K-pop that she had mentioned before, but was never into it massively. I mean, she used to listen to crap like Taking Back Sunday and all these like pop punk bands, which I saw too many of in concert for my liking.
Every Taking Back Sunday fan's just gonna hop in the YouTube call. How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I won't be respectful to you, Lord. No, I'm kidding. But she was like, she mentioned like, oh, I like 17. She was like, yeah, 17. I liked. And I was like, okay, I like 17. Cool. And she's like, I really like. And I remember at one point trying to play. Actually, I was trying to play Sun Me because it was in my head. I wanted to play either Siren or Heroin. I forget which one. And she didn't want me to play it. She said it was weird to her to listen to like Korean music in the background. It was odd to her. Yeah, I don't know. She was mental, but like, but generally it's not a thing that I've seen. And like, sometimes Korean people here, for example, will ask, "Oh, do you know BTS?" just as a conversation starter, in the same way that they might say, "Have you seen Parasite?"
Yeah,
it's like a cultural export that they want to talk about, and it could even just be like, "Oh, have you ever eaten kimchi?" At this point, yeah. But the music that Koreans want, they don't tell you to listen to it, but the music that they're listening to is very different, right? There's a lot of K-pop adjacent, and I like to just kind of put it all under the same umbrella, but it's adjacent music, right? It's Korean music. And perhaps a good topic for this right now is Davichi. I'm sure you must have encountered Davichi at some point. Two women do ballads and stuff.
Yeah, I do remember seeing.
So they've been around for forever. So they just had a comeback, and it immediately has taken the #1 spot on a bunch of charts, smacked Savage out of its spot. I mean, I'm sure it will come back just by virtue of quantity, but that's what a lot of people here like. Like a huge singer right now is Lee Mu-jin. He's like this 21-year-old singer-songwriter guy who just makes like happy acoustic guitar music about treasuring your youth. Very wholesome, sweet, inoffensive music. And he won the Triple Crown on Inkigayo. He won it 3 weeks in a row, competing against idol groups. And he's not even performing. It's just that's how well his song is doing. And like that's a whole different thing. It's like when you think of who the audience of K-pop is, it's popular here, but it's not popular in the way that pop music is popular in the West.
That's a really interesting point, because I wouldn't have thought about that. Like in South Korea, like I guess because the way we're exposed to it is just like it's all K-pop, like it's all shoved in your face, like K-pop shoved in. But like you're just saying, like there's a successful duo or a successful solo singer who's not doing K-pop, but winning like the Inkigayo, right? That you're saying the Triple Crown for that and stuff. Like that's crazy as someone who's not listening to like non K-pop a lot of the time. To imagine aespa, or like you're saying, just being knocked off like that. But domestically, like you're saying, like IU, like domestically, right? Massively, insanely huge artist, which I'm internationally, obviously she is famous, but I would not say she's like.
I guess she's gotten famous internationally just because of how big she is in Korea. Yeah. I feel like a lot of K-pop fans perhaps have come in with a group that they like and they expect to see them dominate everything. And then whenever IU releases something, everything stops. Like, so when, for example, even earlier this year when Brave Girls were having their resurgence, right? And the Rollin' was perfect, had perfect all kills. It was #1 on every single chart, daily, weekly, hourly. Yeah. And it was like that for 260 something hours, which puts it like the 6th or 7th most of all time. The most is Dynamite with like 600 and something hours. What stopped that? It was IU releasing Lilac. Like straight away.
Warranted. Lilac, what I loved.
Fantastic.
I coined fantastic. Lilac. I like IU is impressive to me.
Yeah.
As consistent.
And I believe she's releasing a song imminently. Strawberry Moon comes out today or tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I
My
saw an
time.
Instagram teaser for that. I use
Yeah.
one of those ones that, regardless of my list order, kind of just gets like bumped up to the front
Right.
a lot of the time. I use Taeyeon Sunmi. There's three ladies in my life that get number one importance on the list, regardless of the order of things.
So I just brought up the top 10 of Melon right now, right? So number 1 is Savage by Esper. Number 2 is Love Always Runs Away by Im Young Woong, who's a trot singer.
I need to check that out on the live next time. That's so interesting to me.
Number 3 is Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber. Number 4 is My Universe by Coldplay and BTS. Number 5 is Traffic Light by Lee Jin, the singer I mentioned. Number 6 is another song by Im Young Woong, the trot singer. Number 7 is Next Level by Esper. Number 8 is Ohio My Night by D-Hack and Pateko. Number 9 is another song by Im Young Woong, the trot singer. And number 10 is a song called If You Kindly Call My Name by Yeji Kyungso and Gun Ho Jeon. So out of all of those, we have 2 Esper songs and 1 BTS adjacent song. And that's it for
and
K-pop.
A trot singer dominating like 3 of those slots. To me, that I love that. Like, I love that domestically in South Korea, regardless of how massive internationally K-pop is becoming, that it's just like there's a trot singer dominating the charts. Like, to me, that's awesome. That's
and
so cool.
His music is I've listened to a fair bit of it. I can't say I've listened to him extensively, but his tends to be more on the ballad side. And I feel like that's perhaps why he's done so well, is that he's appealing to the love of ballads and the love of trot simultaneously.
There's a love of ballads in South Korea. You've shown me many times where, like, it's interesting because a ballad is not, I would say, nearly as common in Western music.
No.
Like,
I mean, I still think of Meatloaf when I think of ballads.
Like, oh man, that's Meatloaf. And do you know the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I think of Meatloaf, I instantly think of that scene, like him crashed in the motorcycle. You know?
It's like trying to think of like who is even remotely close to an equivalent. I guess Michael Bublé.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably
Michael Bublé and who did the Titanic song?
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion. Yeah, these are like the ballad singers are like old school kind of in pop music here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's not pop music, is it? It's the kind of thing you buy the CD for your grandma at Christmas, right? It's like, or your mom, depending on how old you are or how old she is. But like, it's it's not popular on the same way, but here it absolutely is. And you will see on any TV show which even when it's not musical related, like sometimes you see on Knowing Bros, for example, people come on, I'm going to sing a song, and they just will whack out some classic ballad and the lights will go down and they'll all just be there, like, and they absolutely love it in a way that just I don't feel like many other countries, if any, that I'm aware of does. Which I think is awesome.
it's so cool. Like, even though I don't personally listen to ballad music a lot, it is cool to see like the emotion that they have behind it. Where
like
we've
right
watched, what is it? The Immortal songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the clips we've seen of Immortal song performances, like the emotion that crowd has is like, whoa! Yeah. Like in the U.S., it wouldn't usually, regardless of who's performing, see such a like gravitational pull from everyone.
Yeah,
it's like
it obviously helps when the performance is fantastic and the singer is incredible.
That's the thing.
When it's Song Seung-yeon singing, it's hard not to be pulled in, right?
Yeah, but even me, like, not knowing what Song Seung-yeon's saying in a song, her voice is enough to bring you to like, feel it. Yeah, you feel the emotion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like when it's something that you see here in Korea, like you go to karaoke, and you're every bit as likely to see a bunch of people, like students who are drunk and want to go out there and sing some pop songs with their friends and have a laugh. I mean, I went there on Saturday and I sang like God's Menu and like Jopping and Kara's Step and like Genie and stuff like that, right?
Did you do the full dance for Step?
Goddamn right. I didn't giving it that. But like, but you will also see like a couple of guys who are also drunk, maybe older guys, they're doing ballads. And you even see people who go to karaoke alone. Like I remember when I went to karaoke in the middle of the day, for example, or like in the afternoon, people would go alone, just like on a lunch break or something, because they have some feelings they want to deal with, and they just want to go there, sit there for 20 minutes, half an hour, belt out a few songs, and then go. And it's a cool way that Koreans like deal with emotions and stuff like that, which I guess is the concept of Han. I mean, that's something we can definitely talk about another time. It's a whole whole psychological, philosophical concept. But it's something that I feel like Koreans don't feel like they can market to other people. There's like you won't get it.
Yeah, that like
in the same way.
Sense of expression that they have with it would be hard to market to the US, because I feel like a lot of, even though in the US or I don't know if it's true of the UK too, even though we have a lot of kind of, oh, we're free, freedom of expression and all this stuff, there's a general kind of idea of like in public though, like, but you know, don't express yourself too outwardly or something, you know.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, the Koreans can wear their heart on their sleeves and kind of be proud of it, you know. Which is awesome. And I think that's perhaps not what makes K-pop accessible, but it's what makes people stick around. It's what makes people feel connected to it in a way that they wouldn't have if they were just the kind of aloof, vapid type of celebrity that we're perhaps used to.
That type of culture and then personality that a lot of idols have because of that, I would say the lifestyle there, I think is what makes such like when we talked about biases before, what makes people gravitate to certain people so much is that kind of culture they have. They're living that kind of lifestyle makes you gravitate towards like GU compilations that I end up watching of Dreamcatchers. I'm like, how have I ended up watching like 20 minutes of this or something, you know? Like,
right.
When they do like V lives or something, because it is interesting. It's kind of a thing you don't see from our artists here, I would say, at all.
Yeah.
To kind of finish some of what the actual topic with accessibility, because one thing we did not summarize, overall, hands down the most like accessible of all, because we talked about accessible to specific people who like specific music, maybe like metal. We said I think we agree Dreamcatcher probably for a metalhead. Like Mamamoo is one of those ones if you want to show incredible talent of someone in K-pop. But I would say BTS, I would still agree, like from the first episode when you talked about it, BTS overall has a catalog that I feel there's something there that anyone can like. For instance, me, even though they've gone very in a westernized directions with some of their releases lately, but I do love, like, if you go back to Fake Love and Fire, and there's just some of the early stuff. It's interesting to me, the early stuff probably wouldn't be something you would expose someone to like K-pop to. But for me, it would be personally, like Fake Love, Fire, some of those DNA, to me, those are like, like
that's kind of like the middle point of them, right? It's not the early
oh,
stuff.
Is that not early? Sorry, I don't know like their history perfectly.
No, so early stuff would be like No More Dream and War of Hormone and Danger and stuff like that. Danger is a great song. War of Hormone is also a good song, but the lyrics are excruciating. But like but they're very different styles. And it's like if you said to someone, hey, there's a Korean boy band I'd like you to check out, immediately they have that preconception. But I feel like with BTS, you could then play a song like Mic Drop or Dope or something like, or Fire, and they'll be like, oh, okay, this is not what I was expecting. But if that person is really into happy-go-lucky, feel-good music, then you could play them Dynamite. But I feel like, like I said, there's like you said, even there's so much appeal you can like. I feel like On is a song that would appeal to a lot of different people, as well. But then a song like Idol, which people have said was very divisive, and it wasn't to appeal to the West. It was more as a thing about Korea and stuff. To me, that was a song that really had me in a BTS phase. I thought Idol was fantastic. Still one of
Same.
my favorite songs of
Me and
theirs.
you, I think, both enjoy when they're not appealing to Western market. It just
Maybe. I mean, I like Dynamite. I have no issue with that, and I think Butter is fine. And I just think Permission to Dance is a bit limp. but um, but yeah, like, I mean, one of my classes will play the Dynamite MV on repeat, so I'm getting a wee bit sick of it. Listening to it 6 times in an hour is a bit much, but like
it's
still
everywhere.
A fun song.
Yeah, you walk into that. That was I do like Dynamite as a song. It's very catchy. It's very well done. But it's like one of those things. If I'm walking into a store and it's always on or something, that's when it starts to kind of be like, oh man, like I like the song, but I can't handle like hearing this for the 10th time today or whatever, you know.
Yeah. A topic for another time would be how much other English releases kind of getting to a point where they can get to a similar level. Like you have to have thought, for example, a song like "The Fields" by Twice could be on a similar level. Like it wouldn't be weird to hear that in a song in a shop, just from a musical standpoint. It would be weird because it's a Twice song, but like it sounds like a happy night, a good pop song. And like I think it's a great song.
Yet, but I do. Oh! I have seen that people
been holding out.
I have seen that people were liking it though and really commenting it a lot to check it out. So I am excited because Twice doing a full English release like that is very interesting to me. The one I always think of is like Bad Boy and the disappointment that I had to get rid of that opening line, which to me is like the hook. Instantly.
Oh, like, who that is?
Who that boy? But yeah, they changed it to who that is. I was like, I'll never forget the feeling of being excited that Bad Boy was in English and that happening, and instantly just stopping the song and being like, what just happened?
I mean, yeah, that is another topic. Like good English versions versus bad English versions, and English original songs versus English versions of songs and stuff like that.
We could go into that another time. Yeah, like who did the best like English K-pop release?
Nature, of
like,
course.
Some of the Nature Girls, the English version that I still can't get on Spotify. I am gonna scream about that every time we do one of these until it happens. Nature Girls on Spotify, English version. Let's make it happen, please. It can't just. I'm telling you. Please, I'm begging at this point.
Like, hopefully, maybe it'll be on whatever they're gonna release next.
Yeah,
maybe.
I feel like we're gonna. What was it last time we said we'll get before that happens or something? Because there's like a cover performance of something.
I don't know.
Man, I'm blanking on it. But then we joked last time. There's like a cover they did that'll end up on Spotify before we ever even get the English version of Girls.
Yeah.
Well, I think we. What is there anything we didn't quite cover? Because I don't want to feel like we didn't fully get over any type of variable in the subject.
I'm sure there is, and it will come to us like within 30 seconds after stopping recording.
And the first comment will be like, "Hey, you didn't do this" or something,
But I feel like we covered a good chunk of it, to be honest. Yeah, there's not much else I feel like I could say. I guess you could say about how what's accessible to a casual fan, someone who might like Dynamite now, but they still don't consider themselves a K-pop fan and they haven't dived into BTS. How do you go from there into more stuff, right? Like what? And I feel like again, it's like so with Blackpink, for example, it's like because the catalog is short. How do you then go, okay, now you've checked out Blackpink, you've checked out their titles, maybe you've listened to their albums and you like them. Where do you go from here? Like, what's the next artist that you can show someone?
I would use maybe a personal lose them in story for that. So my mom, when I exposed her to K-pop, and she was exposed to BTS. My mom comes from like a background of loving you know, I think Donny Osmond was like her favorite artist growing up, you know, so it's like,
Okay.
it's total, you know, very unusual kind of background that you're not used to dealing with. Of like, and she grew up obviously during disco and everything else going on at the time. So I remember, funny enough, the thing that really got her hooked boy group was EXO, Monster, of all things. Which was interesting to me. She had heard BTS. She liked Blackpink because she loves to dance. So Blackpink has that very, like, you instantly can feel the rhythm of it to get you moving kind of thing. And I'll remember the first time she really seemed to gravitate to being hooked. She loves EXO still. My mom will, like, play EXO. She'll roll, whenever I see her, she'll roll up in like a you know, Blair and what is it, Coco Bop or whatever and stuff, you know. So it's just really interesting to, so I feel like you don't always know what can hook someone, because I wouldn't assume EXO to be that one for someone who has such a unusual background to be exposed to K-pop.
Right.
For Monster to be that thing that's like, oh yeah, this is awesome, this is amazing, you know, which for me, EXO Monster, the pinnacle of boy group song.
Yeah,
to me, that is the top
an all-timer for me too. Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it can be said as simply as just when a song is that good, that's all it needs. Like, and the way that the type of good that Monster is that it has that kind of typical build up, you know. It has like the da, 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 and it's like you feel it coming, but then the way the chorus hits with all of their voices together is so satisfying. And like, because pop music in a fundamental level is all about tension and resolution, right? I don't want to go too much into musical theory, but it's like you have a note which sets something up, and then you have a note which makes it uneasy, the dominant, and then it like the back to the tonic, which makes it like, okay, everything's fine again. Yeah. It's like if I play this note and then I play this note afterwards, it's weird, but if I play this note, it feels like everything's okay again, right? And Monster does that so well. It gives you that tension, and then the satisfaction is so good. It's like, it's hard not to fall for it.
Musically alone, that song is great. It hits all the right points to get you hooked, but it's the visuals too of that song. The video and the choreography to me from that song is so memorable. Like, if there's a choreography I really remember, like, visually being aghast by, like, oh wow, you know, it's that chorus that like da, 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 and they have that kind of arm,
that like,
it just looks so, the leg kind of, it's everything about that song was so well done that I would say, to summarize kind of, because we talked about like most accessible to all kinds of different people, but I would say, if for me personally, I would still like punch that flag of like my personal favorites to someone, because if someone's really gonna like K-pop, they're gonna probably like something like Psycho from Red Velvet,
right?
You know, if they're actually gonna dig into the genre and like it, they're probably gonna like that stuff that you don't think is instantly accessible. Like, because I would not have thought EXO Monster to be the thing to show, to be like, here, hook into K-pop, but it was for my mom and for my friend Zach, who loves Frank Zappa and is like his music, you know. For him, it was very hard because I knew he was not going to like a lot of K-pop, but then he loved Psycho from Red Velvet. So it's so weirdly variable. So I would say, if you're someone trying to expose someone to K-pop, just go for it. Like, go for like that song that you're, if they see maybe how passionate you are about that group, they'll give it a chance. Because with my friend Zach, the only reason I think he gave it a chance was because I was like, dude, Red Velvet's, this is the dope. It's like, this is the real shit right here. Like,
yeah, I think, and if the response is this isn't really my style, then you just say, okay, well, what is your style? And then you can perhaps try and find something that's a deeper cut that fits them better.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to find someone willing to try. That's the first thing.
Yeah, there's someone who has an open mind is always is the first aspect of it.
Yeah.
So this was episode 2. No summarization points really, I think. Anyone in the comments below, feel free to like we were saying, if you disagree with anything, we can have a comfortable conversation about it without getting too attack oriented. Me and Oliver are both open-minded gents. We're willing to listen to other people's opinions, and anything in the topics you feel that we did not really perfectly cover, feel free to comment it, and we can always in another episode eventually come back and really cover that topic again. All right, well, I'm feeling good. Episode 2, yeah, Kpop Podcast episode 2. I'll say bye goodbyes. I'm Honan. Hope you all enjoyed.
I'm Oliver. Hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble.
Bye, everybody.